Hello everyone, welcome to Oracle Chamber. My name is Kiana and today we're going to be discussing the full moon in Scorpio happening May 7th, 2020. And I know it has been a long time, meaning years long, that I've been away, that I've been gone from this channel. Now, of all times, is one of the best opportunities to come back, seeing as there's so much happening in our world today. And that's part of what we're going to be discussing. So first of all, what's going on in the world today? Obviously, we have COVID-19. We have everyone being in quarantine at the same time, everyone in the world, basically. So that's kind of a collective experience. And then we have millions of people unemployed, at least in the United States, but I'm sure as well in many other areas of the world. Millions of people unemployed, thousands of small businesses going out of business, and it's kind of like we're back at square one of civilization. And that's kind of what Taurus represents. We're having a full moon in Scorpio opposite the sun in Taurus. It is happening at 17 degrees. And it is conjuncting, I believe, Mercury in Taurus. So, the sun is conjuncting Mercury in Taurus. The moon opposite it isn't conjunct anything, but it is trine over to Neptune in Pisces. What does this all mean? First of all, let's go through the Sabian symbol. So the image that we should all meditate on during this full moon is a path through woods, brilliant with multicolored splendor. And so we'll go over what that means in a bit. But as well, what's happening is the North Node, which it's been in Cancer for the last 18 to 19 months, is now moving into Gemini during this full moon. I think it's the perfect time, especially since this the sun is also conjuncting Mercury at this time, which is Gemini's ruler. So that's kind of a cool coincidence there. There's lots going on now. So let's get into the reading. So what this full moon represents, we have the moon in Scorpio right now. This full moon is coming at a time when all of us are forced into quarantine, right? And the quarantining aspect of that, by the fact that we're all kind of sentenced to our own homes, right, is stemming from the North Node's influence in Cancer, or while it had been in Cancer, and now that it's moving into Gemini, there is sort of a new influence here. But as all full moons in Scorpio during Taurus season represent, there is sort of a harvestation happening globally right now in all of us, a harvestation of the previous year's cycle and how we can convert that to productive energy come this next seasonal cycle, right? As we're diving into the new year, this is the second sign following Aries, which is the beginning of the astrological new year. So not the calendar new year that we're all familiar with, January to December, but from March to February is, or March to March, is how astrologers roll. So now we're in the season of productizing our experiences, right? But with the Sabian symbol that we see here, with this path lit up with splendor, right? I see it as there's two different ways that we can use this energy. Right now, it's about harvesting the inner experiences that we've had, I feel, for the past 7 to 8 years. I think beginning 2012, that's when Uranus was fully into Aries, right? And now Uranus is in Taurus. And Taurus is about productizing the energy, the fuel of Aries, right? What Aries experienced, Taurus gives full meaning and productive energy. If you can remember, 8 years ago, which was 2012, that's kind of when this whole cycle started, right? We entered sort of a new zone, a new aspect of the world as well as our personalities. That was when the so-called Mayan calendar revealed the end of the world, right? The end of the previous world and the beginning of the new cycle. And a lot of our collectivity kind of held on to that, grasped onto that, and believed in it, right? And here we are, where things are getting more and more chaotic by the day, and we don't really know what lies ahead from here. But since that experience, since that diving into the new world, we've needed to cultivate our colors, cultivate our Aries experience, cultivate our identities who are going to be in this new world. And now, during this full moon in particular, it is the harvestation of that self-work, that inner experience, that inner process where we've kind of been deciding how we want ourselves to be in this world. But now we're kind of needing to take all of that, right? Extract it from within, and realizing that the world is not yet reflecting everyone's inner self, right? The world is not reflecting the colors of who we truly are and what we truly want as a species. And so now is the time when things are moving in that direction, where things are changing, where things are being destroyed in order to be renewed for the future. In this process of harvestation, there is a focus on needing to develop inner peace amidst the chaos of the world. As the world is transforming, we cannot revert back to our old ways and feel like things are hopeless. We cannot revert to the old ways of feeling like we want everything to return back to the way it was before, because that's not the point, right? We want our world and our society and our businesses and our people and our families to evolve with us, not just us evolving, because that's not the point of the story of humanity, right? It's a collective process. It's a whole entire picture process. And so just because we have changed, we have evolved to some extent, that needs to sort of domino effect out into the bigger picture. And that's what's happening right now. It looks like chaos, but in that chaos, new things are born. New soil means new plants, new flowers are blooming. And that is sort of the theme in this full moon. I call it overcoming death. And the key to overcoming death, as things are disintegrating, the old world is disintegrating, now we have the choice between whether we're going to be the flower or the humus. And what that means is we can either integrate ourselves in this new world and find our place in it and build our pillar, as we're going to be discussing more as we get into the North Node section. We can either bloom, use this opportunity to bloom into who we are and to allow the new society to bloom, the new businesses to bloom, the new people and the new leaders of society to bloom, the new human being, or we can fall back into despair, into fear, into biological fear, right? Into our genetic limitations, which is also an aspect of Taurus, because Taurus rules Earth and our history and things that we've known, our comfort levels as human beings, right? Our wants and needs, our security. And right now our security is being tested, right? Scorpio is always testing Taurus because it's its opposite sign, it's its polarity. The only way for us to transcend our fear and to transcend our need to be secure is to form a mental security, which is what the North Node in Gemini is basically representing, as well as this Mercury conjuncting the Sun in Taurus. It is the transcendence of our biology through our mind. And this is not a process that has ever been done before. And so there's no roadmap, there's no landscape, there's no blueprint, right? This is an initiative process into a new way of being human that our ancestors have never done before, that our families or our parents have never done before. And so we can't look to these adult figures, right? Are these parental figures, these figures of wisdom in the old world. Everyone is becoming a child again through this. With this full moon, there's going to be the choice between flowering into the unknown, but also who you really are, your truth, or else becoming the humus, which is like the flower that wilts or doesn't really become a flower. Instead, it falls and disintegrates and becomes part of the soil, which will give life to future generations instead of life in the now, life in the present. But in that sense, it's almost like being furniture, where you're not really becoming a person, you're becoming a tool or an instrument for something in the future. And so that can lead you down a dark path if you're not careful with how you use this energy. But the moon in Scorpio in itself is this personal battle that we're all having, right? We're all being forced into our homes. We're all being forced to deal with our subconscious skeletons in the closet, our deep insecurities. Scorpio, especially the moon in Scorpio, is about the personal battle that we all have with dealing with the mainly the social aggressive elements in our society. It's like the person versus society, the person versus the rest of the world, versus the family unit, versus anything which undermines that personal identity. You can either integrate into it, or you can transform it, or you can be transformed by it, right? There is this constant sort of cyclical transformation that happens here. As well, we have Pluto in retrograde in Capricorn, right? And there's a whole other discussion we can have about Saturn, Pluto conjunction, and also Saturn right now being in Aquarius. But Pluto's retrograde right now, which is Scorpio's co-ruler, and Pluto retrograde is all about making a decision. We take the transformation that's happened on the planet, right? Worldwide, we have this pandemic happening, right? And whether we agree that it's real or not real, I do think it's real, but not to the extent that the media is portraying, right? But regardless, the fact that it's a pandemic to the whole world, right? In the world, in the mind of the world, this only happens once every couple years, or once every couple hundred years. But now, the greatest pandemic and the greatest war that we are facing right now lies in the mind, lies in our control over our own minds, as well as our ability to influence other people's minds in the world, the collective itself. With this moon trining over to Neptune, I feel like there is the creative possibility of being able to tap into our own insight, our own intuition, our ability to see and pierce through the fog that Neptune is portraying, right? That the media is kind of playing with. We're able to pierce through that and find not only our truth, but the truth of what's happening, the big picture. And with that, we're able to creatively influence it in a way that people can hear, that people can resonate with. At this time, especially with the North Node in Gemini now, we have to find our own voice, and that voice is centered in our greatest truth, especially as we've had time to ourselves now through this quarantine. We've had time to explore who we are and explore our home, our inner selves. We've had time to actually take a step back from the corporate world, from the busybody world, from just being in society, which is Capricorn. When the South Node had been in Capricorn for the past 18 to 19 months, right? And kind of delve into who we are in the scheme of things, in the grand scheme of things, like what everything means, and where we're going to fit into that. You know, where do we belong? What do we want to say? What do we really feel? Are we happy with the way things are? And so as we've had time to sort of adjust to that and sort of get a clear response from that question that we've been asking ourselves for a while now. Now it's time to touch other people's hearts with the information that we've found in our own bodies, in our own minds, right? Now we're able to reach out and touch another mind, to reach out and make real friends, to make a real network, to make a new culture, not based on root values or blood values, but on mental values, based on the mind, based on a frequency, based on who we are inside, our own innate cancer. So this moon in Scorpio is piercing through the fog and piercing through the mass fear and the mass sort of genetic manipulation into global pandemic, this mass invasion of the mind, invasion of the frequency that we've been cultivating, and able to discover our true resonance. During this full moon, we're also having the North Node, which just moved into Gemini, right? And it will remain in Gemini with the South Node in now Sagittarius for the next 18 to 19 months. It will move into Taurus around January 2022, which is an interesting thing as well, because this COVID-19 virus is predicted to last up to 2 years, okay? So there's kind of a big emphasis here. We're all kind of being forced into this, right? Which is a very much a Capricornian energy. What I see the North Node in Gemini to be is this focus on mind, our mental capabilities, which we're just now discovering, and we're just now innovating within, right? As we have more access to the internet. Everyone's on the internet basically at this point, and now there's sort of this layered reality on top of the reality that we all know, right? Which is our biological reality, which is our physical reality, right? This is mind over biology now. In a way, this is making us more aware and also more capable of surpassing our genetic limitations as well as our genetic fear. This is the past, right? All that we've inherited. How can we use that in order to become more? Which is definitely a Gemini question, right? This is all having us explore our minds now, explore our voice. And sort of prediction I have for the North Node here as well. The last time the North Node was in Gemini was around, I think it was between 2001 or 2 to 2003, which is when the internet itself and the personal computer became sort of mainstream, became basically in most people's households. And so that was a really big shift in our perspective as a species, right? It's almost like, well, now we can't live without the internet, right? It's become a part of who we are, a part of our identity. But back then it was sort of new. It was sort of a new landscape, and we had started becoming addicted to it. And it had started becoming part of who we are as human beings. A part of us had shifted in a way where we were able to transcend a genetic limitation through the fact that we were able to now incorporate so much information in our brains. We had accessed a part of ourselves that had never existed before, or that we didn't know existed, that was invisible to us, through this development of our sense through the virtual network, right? And so now that basically everyone in the world is on the internet, and if you're not really connected to the rest of the world, right? We're kind of being forced into it. I feel like, and this is just a prediction and my own opinion, but I have a funny feeling that through this forced evolution, a part of our collective nervous system, just as human beings, right, will be mutating. In that we're going to become so familiar with the virtual world, and it may be through, I don't know how it will be through, right? It could be through 5G, it could be through virtual reality, it could be through a variety of means. There's so many avenues in how this can manifest, but I feel like we're going to become so integrated in the virtual network that it will be sort of a literal new reality for us. Just how civilization developed through various cultures, through various groups and bodies of people, through various races. I feel like now, since Uranus and Taurus is shaking up the biological world, and the South Node is now in Sagittarius, where we cannot depend any longer on wisdom from so-called, predecessors. We can't depend on fundamentalism or blood or root values, things that have existed since the beginning of time or since the beginning of a particular culture, right? We can't depend on those fundamentalist principles. This is a very individualistic era, and also a collective one, because we're all experiencing it. I feel like, in a way, for the next couple years, and maybe beyond then, we may become even more factionalized, in the sense that we're going to become even more closely connected, in that we're all on the internet. We all are a part of this big global network, right? But also, we're segmenting ourselves and dividing ourselves into groups, into factions of people based on our mental values, based on what we believe and what we think inside of our own minds as individuals. Whoever believes as you do, or thinks as you do, or values as you do as an individual, not based on the past, is going to become part of that tribe, part of that network. And so with the North Node in Gemini, we're going to be seeing a lot more people online having their voice becoming a part of the platform, versus just digesting it, right? Consuming it. Instead of passively receiving it, now we're all jumping in with our own voice, because we have no other option. We have to become people. We have to become new human beings. And the only way to do that now is through sharing what we believe. And so there's sort of an interesting process happening here, where society before us is dissolving, but at the same time, it's almost like new cultures are being born. These are almost going to be mental cultures, not based on blood, but based on thought, based on almost, looks like some, what is it called? When you can, telepathic resonance. And I know that sounds kooky or whatever, but it's you can see it as almost like an expansion of our nervous system, where we are able to feel and think about the other, but also based on who we are. And so instead of just sticking to people who look like you, or people who grew up where you grew up, or have been on the same neighborhood or whatever, now we're connecting with people who think like us and value the same sorts of thoughts and experiences that we do. And the more of these miniature virtual cyber cultures that are born, cultures are the elements of a civilization, of an entire universalized society, right? And so I feel like, since the physical society is disintegrating, there will be a new society and a new civilization based on the mental thoughts of people, the communication, the true commerce between like minds. And I feel like this is a birth into a whole new reality that we have yet to foresee, because many of the things that have been built in our current civilization is based on mythology and blood and root values, where you were and where you grew up. But now there's not any sort of barrier of that sort anymore. And we're all going to be needing to use our voice. We're all going to be needing to have a platform, to become our own media platform in a sense, and starting to connect with these like minds, because this is the only way for us as individuals to touch the collective, to influence the collective, to move it in a particular direction. And the more minds that you can collect around your platform, the more of those voices can integrate into one, right? And the more voices that are integrated into one, the more powerful that voice will be. That more powerful that voice will have to influence the voice of society itself. This is seen in particular as Mars and Aquarius is in trine over to the North Node in Gemini as this full moon is occurring. And Mars and Aquarius is our personal power inside of the collective, our personal power inside of the network, our ability to influence our friends and society, and sort of a ripple effect out into the collective. But through this exploration of the voice, of technology even, it's not just that we are changing the system, but this new system is changing us as well. If we build our own platform, not only are we changing other people, but the fact that we are exposing ourselves in a way, and that's also a very Scorpio trait, right? Exposing ourselves. That exposure will also lead us to transforming. It's not just a one-way change. There is a commerce. There's an exchange between you communicating your truth and also not only the feedback you receive from it, but what it does to you inside, right? Just making that transition from living a very biologically focused life to a more mental and communication focused one. This is the literal shift of perspective, the literal shift and transformation of the mind itself in the human body, the transformation of the nervous system even. And I feel like our minds will expand more than they have ever before to encompass the whole world, not just what we see. Let me know your thoughts on this as well. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope you guys, all of you, have a wonderful and very transformative and insightful and contemplative full moon in Scorpio. And I will see you in the next video.